Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, and I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart to all my viewers out there, I really hope you don't think I'm mean. I know I get some comments there, and people, are worried about me being boisterous, and they comment on me being melodramatic. But I want you to understand in your heart, my heart of hearts, I don't want you to think that I'm being mean here. Because here's the thing, kiddos. Here's the thing. Put down your bottles of blue hair dye. Don't drink them. They're not Gatorade. Here's the thing. If you think I'm mean, you're in for a very hard life over the next decade. The next decade is really gonna suck. Anyways, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. We're closing in on 2026, which means I have been in the tech world for 30 years. 30 years at this point, right? Seen the cycles. And it's funny. It's funny to see the kids. The kids are like, oh my God. And you're like, what? This ain't shit. This ain't shit. I remember that when I was in AIT. I was in AIT. We'd been there for like 2 months. I went through a really long AIT program. Anyways, one of the drill sergeants had to call us in for whatever, a meeting or whatnot for my platoon. And some of the folks in my platoon were going and drinking way too much, right? So they were overage. They were 21. They were going to wherever you could buy beer, and they were just getting shit-faced because of all the problems that they were dealing with. Right? So you're in AIT, and you got a wife at home, and you got a kid that you haven't seen in a couple of months, and all that kind of stuff. And I remember that drill sergeant, and she had her feet up. She had that hat, that woman drill sergeant hat they used to have back in the day. And she was like, look, soldiers, I understand you're old enough to drink and have alcohol and all that kind of stuff, but if you're finding AIT, if you're finding this training to be too stressful for what you're able to handle, you're going to have a very hard life in the Army. This is not what you call stressful. I remember she just kicked back with that. She was just looking at us like this is what it is, but it ain't that much. That's what I kind of think about when I see the employees now, and they're crying, oh my God, it's so horrible. And it's like, oh, bucko. Oh, have I told you the story of getting laid off as a pizza delivery driver? Have I told you the story of having military experience, a college degree, MCSE, a VIA training, doing all that kind of stuff, and being laid off as a pizza delivery driver? Yeah, that story is real. That story's real. And I bring that up because, the executives are just saying it now. They are just saying it. This is coming from CNBC. OpenDoor, so OpenDoor is like a real estate platform. OpenDoor board chair, Rabois, says company is bloated and needs to cut 85% of the workforce. They've got like 1,400 employees. He wants to keep 200 of them. Yeah. So this is reality. I don't know what to tell you. OpenDoor co-founder and newly minted board chair Keith Rabois said remote work and a bloated workforce have been a drag on the company's culture as he vowed to slash headcount. Quote, there's 1,400 employees at OpenDoor. I don't know what most of them do. And I've been talking a lot about this, right? I've started to get a little harsher on the managers. I've started to get a little harsher on the executives lately, because we can start to see what abject failures they are, right? In the time of investment, in the time of overinvestment for the past 10 to 15 years, they haven't had to do their jobs. You just hire people, and then if they don't do what they're supposed to do, you just shuffle them off into a different department and hire more people, right? Because the important thing was putting asses in seats. Now we're getting to the point of you have to actually worry about the ROI for employees. And what we're seeing from the managers, what we're seeing from the leadership of these technology companies is, like I say, what they've been doing for the past decade is just idiotic. right? Quote, there's 1,400 employees at OpenDoor. I don't know what most of them do. We don't need more than 200 of them, Rabois told NBC's A Squawk on the Street on Friday. So OpenDoor has 1,400 employees. The new head of the board is basically saying they should only have 200, and he was the co-founder of this thing back in the day. The online real estate platform on Wednesday appointed former Shopify executive Kaz Nejatian as its new CEO after investor pressure caused his predecessor, Carrie Wheeler, to resign last month. OpenDoor, which is based in San Francisco, also named Rabois as chairman. OpenDoor's business involves using technology to buy and sell homes, pocketing the gains. Rabois said he has, quote, a high-level view of the strategy that's needed to transform OpenDoor, and that the headcount reductions are necessary to resolve the company's cash burn. Quote, the culture is broken. How much have I thought about culture for years? The culture is broken, Rabois said. These people were working remotely. That doesn't work. This company was founded on the principle of innovation and working together in person. We're going to return to our roots. He added that OpenDoor, quote, went down this DEI path, referring to diversity, equity, inclusion. Quote, we're going to fix all that, Rabois said. So there we go. OpenDoor, head of the board, came out and said 85% of the employees gotta go. And we're going to start to see more and more of this. Again, we've seen a lot of this in the past year and a half, and I think we're going to see more and more of this. And I think we're going to start to see more and more of this as management gets shaken up and managers realize they have so little understanding of what their teams and their departments do. Like that's a big problem, right? If you're working for a company, right? If you're trying to keep your organizational ship going in a direction, you don't want to fire all of your boiler technicians. That would be a bad thing. So one of the problems you get to with these companies is a lot of times they get very cautious about layoffs and who they're going to fire, simply because they don't want to fire the wrong people. And where you run into real problems is what happens when you put the wrong people into managerial positions, right? So the managers should understand what their departments are supposed to do. They should understand what their team members' responsibilities are, and they should understand how all this works together, for the organization. But just like you've been hiring a ton of people just to put asses in seats, you've also been putting a lot of manager asses in seats, right? Well, if we've got 10 people, they need a lead. Okay, promote that person to lead. Do they actually know what they're doing the rest of it? Probably not, but we need a full team, and so a team needs a team lead. Oh, this is the department needs a manager. Put somebody in that position. And so right now, a curious thing is going on that I would argue is we are not seeing more layoffs actually because management is so piss poor. Right? I hear that from a lot of my viewers, a lot of the viewers and commenters, right? They get really mad at me. They get mad at me for talking about reality. I'm sorry, it's reality. But anyways, and they talk about how bad their managers are. And one of the things that goes over a lot of these folks' heads is that many of you have jobs simply because of corporate inefficiency. Right? The corporation doesn't really understand what you do and why you do it, and also doesn't understand with a lot of your other team members that. And so you are actually protected, right? Security through obscurity. The company doesn't really understand what you do, and so you get a weird form of security because they don't want to lay you off in case you actually do something important. What's going to be curious, right, as more managers are forced to do their fucking jobs, actually be managers, not be mommies and daddies and fucking camp counselors and the rest of this horse crap. They actually have to be managers. Once you start having managers do their actual jobs, once they start cleaning up these departments, understanding the org charts, understanding KPIs, understanding performance and all that kind of stuff, I think you're going to start to see many, many more layoffs. Again, it's going to go back to the old, basically efficiency gains, right? I've been talking about this a little bit lately. Every 20 years, For a while now in the United States. There's this like efficiency fetish, right? So during the 1980s, the big thing was to go in and buy these large blue chip companies and then chop them into pieces, because what they found out was the pieces of these blue chip companies were more valuable than the company themselves, right? And so that was considered a way to increase efficiency, right? Chop up these old bloated corporations so they can become a lot of nimble, smaller companies, right? We saw that then in the early 2000s, right? Before the financial crisis, we saw where they're trying to get more efficiency again out of things like younger employees, younger MBAs. A younger MBA might cost 2/3 the price of an older MBA. Why are we paying this person $150,000 a year when we could pay the replacement $100,000 a year, right? And they were trying to make efficiency gains there. I think we're just going through that next part of that 20-year cycle where the investment money is disappearing. We have a lot of these companies that there is value there, right? Intrinsically, you understand that there's value there, but you have to pare down these companies so that you can actually get to the profit margins. And so more and more of these companies are going to be looking at how to make themselves more and more efficient, and the process is going to go through, and that's going to start eliminating just a crap ton of asses and seats. And so you have this board chair for OpenDoor literally come in and say they need to cut 85% of the workforce. The fact of the matter is that might not actually be as extreme as it sounds. You know, it's the whole thing I've said for a while now, right? The racism, right? The racism or the discrimination or whatever wasn't when you got fired. It was when you got hired. There are a lot of people out there that the problem isn't that they're getting fired. The problem was that they got hired a couple of years to begin with. So be curious to see how this fleshes out. And so that's where it's important for you, right? As an employee, if you're an employee, understanding what the business does. Understand what the fuck your value proposition to the company is. Why does the company pay you? That's one of the things I like, having been my generation of technology professional, right? So last time I did consulting was 2012. But anyway, so before 2012, right? You know, but after that I've been doing YouTube and all kinds of other wacky stuff. But anyways, you knew why you got paid. I mean, you might hate your fucking boss. You may fucking hate your users. You may not get paid enough, right? There's always stuff to bitch. As an employee, there's always stuff to bitch about. But the thing that I find fascinating for my generation is we knew why we were there. We knew why we were there. We might get overpaid, or we might get underpaid. We might get a lot of benefits or a little benefits. But you know, like when the printer fails and you go fix the printer, you know why you're there. When you have work orders, right? When you walk in the morning and you have 30 work orders to clear, however you feel about those work orders, you understand why you bring value to this company, right? I think the interesting thing with so many of the tech employees nowadays, and it's really important, I think, like, do you know why you bring any value to the company? Can you honestly, can you sit there, like again, when I was doing consulting or whatever else, you might be able to say like, well, maybe they can find somebody for half my salary, but my job needs to be here, right? You can't eliminate my job. You can find somebody that's cheaper than me. You might be able to find somebody that works harder than me or has more knowledge than me. You might be able to find a better employee than me, right? Fair enough. But this job has to be done, right? This job, whether I'm doing this job or not, this job has to be done. What I find fascinating, when I talk with so many young technology professionals, they don't really understand the value of their job. They don't. It's like they've got a position and they get tasks and that kind of thing, but they don't really feel that connection to the organization, the corporation, to know that at least their position is valuable to the company, right? You might be able to find a better employee for this position, but this position has to stay here. And that's what I think is curious now, is that how many of these positions don't need to be there, right? This position doesn't need to exist. This position was created to kiss investor ass. Investors ain't handing out the money they used to, ergo, that position doesn't need to be there anymore. And so it's really important for you folks to be thinking about Understanding what it is your business does, understanding the overall industry, the vertical that your business is in, understanding why your business does or does not have competitive advantages, understanding who the competitors in your business are, understanding how your work, how the tasks that are assigned to you directly either promote efficiency, being able to produce more widgets or sell more widgets or increase the cost of widgets. Right? Understanding that, because, being here in Asheville, one of the fascinating things with Asheville, and I didn't realize this difference till you come to Asheville, is in the tech world for years, for decades really, I'd always been around decision makers. I'd always been around the managers or the CEOs or people like me running consulting companies or whatever else. That's where I was always at. So again, you talk about ROIs, you talk about TCOs, you talk about KPIs, profit loss. That was just the normal, like, somebody starts talking about, the new product or whatever they're selling. Oh, and the thing you ask next, is there good profit on that? So what do you walk away? What's the spread? What's the spread on that? Anyways, right? The curious thing that I find being here in Asheville is we have a lot of tech people. We have a lot of tech employees, right? I go to my pub runs, I go to events with tech people, and then I'll just be sitting there and what they do. And they'll be like, what does the business do? What does the business do that you support? And then I'll ask them basically, it's like, oh, that's interesting. How do you guys make revenue? What's your main profit driver? And it's amazing how many of the tech employees have no idea what the fuck the main profit drivers are for the company they work for. And I want you to be thinking about this as you move forward, because if you understand what the company needs, and if you understand what value the company needs, it's much easier to position yourself into a place to remain valuable for the company. Or if nothing else, just to realize you're going to get laid off at some point. Right? I've had friends that way. They knew they were worthless employees. They knew they were worthless. And so every time a layoff round came through, they were like, well, fuck. Well, it's another round of layoffs. Wonder if I'll make it. And they get through 2 or 3 rounds, and then they get their severance pay. But they knew what the fuck was going on. They didn't buy new houses. They didn't buy new cars. They knew exactly how worthless their job was. I get paid good for a worthless job. So they would buy very good pints of beer, but they were not buying fancy cars. The reason is a pint of beer, you pay the money, it's done. You buy a fancy car, you got 5 years to pay off the payments, right? Anyways, these are some things to be thinking about. Because this stuff is gonna get worse, right? What Trump is doing. Like, whether you believe in isolationism or globalization, right? Whether you're a China shill or you fucking hate the China man, right? Whether you believe we should be in NATO or out of NATO or whatever else, you really have to understand, like, what Trump is doing to our economy is profound. And however it works, I don't think it's going to make things better in 10 years. I don't think it's going to make things better in 10 years. But the argument is, in 10 years, it'll be better. I'm not sure how we get there. But what you got to understand is, what's between here and 10 years? 9 years, 11 months, and 31 days. Right? There's a lot of time between here and 2035. So even if Trump's policies do what he says, right, dawn America or whatever, right, that's 10 years from now. It can be a brutal time between here and there. I think that's one of the fascinating things, like getting older. I'm almost 50 now. I'm like spitting distance to 50. And that's the bizarre thing. Like, to have been in time periods and realized how long those time periods seem when you're in them. And now they just seem like a blip. Right? Again, like the dot-com bubble and the dot-com burst. Right? But that was years, right? Like September 11th and everything that went along with that. The financial crisis, the Great Recession, right? Shit started going sideways and whatever it was, like 2008. Didn't start really righting itself till maybe 2012, 2013. That was like 5 years of fuckery, right? But now it's just like, again, COVID came in. That was years of stupidity. And I think that's one of the things to consider right now is we're just, things are massively changing. And so to figure out where you fit into that massively changing world. And that's why you need to do things like be nice to your boss. Befriend your boss. Treat your boss like they're a fucking human being, right? Because if you treat your boss like they're a human being, it's amazing what they'll tell you. They will tell you exactly what they need. They will tell you exactly what they're looking for. They'll tell you exactly what the fuck their pain points are. You just going, hey boss, here the work order, here what, blah, blah, blah. So what's going on? Hey, I saw the 50% tariffs on India or whatever today. Does that affect us? And that's the thing. Like, you can go in, right? Read your CNBC, Wall Street Journal. I don't know, that used to be good. Anyways, read your Wall Street Journal, your Financial Times, right? You run into a manager, you run into an executive. Hey, I got a question. Yeah, I just saw, whatever, this new tariff against Brazil or whatever, right? Do we have any vulnerability to Brazil? I'm just kind of curious on that, right? You just bring it up. It's amazing. Oh no, we don't have any vulnerability to Brazil. Tell you what, we actually do have some vulnerability to Cambodia. Those little boxes we fucking buy? Yeah, only motherfuckers who make those things are fucking Cambodians for some fucking reason. I don't give a shit about Brazil. Cambodia now. That's a problem for us, right? And you just sit there and you talk. But anyways, I'm a mean guy. I'm a mean guy. If it makes you feel better, I guess you can think that I'm mean. But it's gonna be a hard life. Anywho, what do you think about this? What do you think about OpenDoor, the chair of the board, basically saying 85% of the employees gotta go? He literally doesn't know what the fuck they do. Do you think that this is an extreme? Or do you think this is foreshadowing? I don't know. Put your thoughts down below. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing. Call me a moron. Just do it down in that comment section like a real alpha dog do. Do remember SiliconDojo.com exists. I'm going to Durham, North Carolina tomorrow to lock down a classroom. And we're going to start teaching in Durham in a couple weeks. I don't know, in a little bit of time. We're also going to start teaching here in Asheville, North Carolina again. And we do the fireside chats. You can go to SiliconDojo.com. You can sign up for free because it's all free to the end user. And be on the list for the classes and those types of things. And with that, see y'all later.